Every new Animate project begins with just a single frame. To create room on the timeline to add more content, you'll have to add more frames to at least one layer. Select a later frame in all 3 layers. In this example, select frame 50. Choose Insert, Timeline, Frame. You can also right-click and choose Insert Frame. Animate adds frames in all the selected layers up to the selected point at frame 50. You'll create 4 keyframes in a new layer and place information about each of the restaurants in the new keyframes. Insert a new layer atop all the other layers and rename it Content. Select frame 10 of the content layer. Insert a new keyframe at frame 10. Choose Insert, Timeline, Keyframe, or press F6, or press the Insert Keyframe button above the timeline. Insert new keyframes at frames 20, 30, and 40. Your timeline has 4 empty keyframes in the content layer. Select the keyframe at frame 10, and in the library panel, expand the restaurant content folder. Drag the symbol Gabble and Lawful from the library onto the stage. This is a movie clip symbol that contains a photo, graphics, and text about the restaurant. Position the symbol in the center of the stage, but out of the way of the heading. In the Properties panel, Position and Size section, set an X of 60 and a Y value of 150. The restaurant information about Gabble and Lawful is centered on the stage and covers all the buttons. Select the keyframe at frame 20. Drag the symbol Gary Gary from the library panel to the stage. This is another movie clip symbol that contains a photo, graphics, and text about the restaurant. In the Properties panel, make sure the X value is set to 60 and the Y value is set to 150. Place each of the movie clip symbols from the restaurant content folder in the library panel at the corresponding keyframes in the content layer. Each keyframe should contain a different movie clip symbol about a restaurant. Frame labels are names you give to keyframes. Instead of referring to keyframes by their frame number, you refer to them by their label, which makes code easier to write, read, and edit. Select frame 10 on the content layer, and in the Properties panel, within the Label section, enter Label 1 in the name field. A tiny flag icon appears in each of the keyframes that have labels. Select frame 20 on the content layer, and in the Properties panel, in the Label section, enter Label 2 in the name field. Select frames 30 and 40, entering corresponding names in the name field for each, Label 3 and Label 4. A tiny flag icon appears on each of the keyframes that has a label. Use a stop action to pause your Animate movie. A stop action simply stops the movie from continuing by halting the playhead. Insert a new layer up top and name it Actions. JavaScript and ActionScript code are generally placed on keyframes on the timeline. Select the first keyframe of the Actions layer and open the Actions panel through Window, Actions. Click Add using Wizard. The wizard opens within the Actions panel. The wizard guides you step by step through the code writing process. Step 1 asks you to choose the action or behavior you want Animate to perform from a list. Scroll downwards in the list under Select an Action and select Stop. Another menu appears to the right. In this next menu, choose this timeline. Code appears in the action window. The stop action will apply to the current timeline. Click Next. Step 2 appears in the wizard. Step 2 asks you to select the trigger that will produce your selected action. Select with this frame. Additional code is added to make reference to the current timeline. You want the stop action to be executed as soon as the timeline begins, so the appropriate trigger is when the playhead encounters the current frame. Click Finish and Add. The finish code is added to the script window in the Actions panel. In the timeline, a tiny letter A is added to the first frame of the action layer to indicate the code has been added there. We'll now add actions for a button click. Select the first frame of the Actions layer. Open the Actions panel if it's not already open. Place your text cursor in the last line of the script window. You'll add additional code to the code that's already there. Click the Add Using Wizard button. The wizard opens up within the Actions panel. Step 1 asks for the action. Scroll down and select Go to Frame Label and Stop. Another menu appears to the right. Choose this timeline. Code appears in the action window. The action will apply to the current timeline. Replace the blue highlighted letters in the action window with the name of the label you want the playhead to go to. To replace Enter Frame Label, enter Label 1. The frame label name appears in green and should be between a set of single quotes. Click Next. Step 2 appears in the wizard. Step 2 asks for a trigger that will produce your selected action. Select On Mouse Click. On Mouse Click is an event that happens when the user's mouse button or trackpad is pressed and then released over the on-screen button. Another menu appears to the right. The wizard asks for the object for the triggering event. Select Gebel_BTN, which is the button that corresponds to the Gebel and Lawful restaurant, whose information is displayed in the keyframe labeled Label 1. Click Finish and Add. The finish code is added to the script window in the Actions panel. Click Control Test. Animate opens your browser to show your project. Click the Gebel and Lawful button. Animate detects the click trigger and the button and moves the playhead to the keyframe, labeled Label 1, where the stage shows information about the Gebel and Lawful restaurant. Close your browser and return to Animate. Select the first frame of the Actions layer and open the Actions panel again. Continue adding additional actions and triggers to the existing code for the other 3 buttons. Each button should trigger a go to and stop action to a different keyframe.
At this point in the project, I want you to call me over to your desk and show me your progress so I can see that you've been working and see how it's going at this point.